Eleanor and I met just before she came to Baylor University as a freshman. I was a second-year junior, I believe it was. And, well, two of my happiest years in college were as a junior. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And we met just before she came to Baylor, and we used to court all the time on a fire escape at a Baptist church across from the campus. We'd go up on the fire escape and turn out a floodlight and have devotionals. I was devoted to her, and she was devoted to me, which was very helpful. Baylor had kind of an interesting atmosphere. They were sort of against passion there, publicly, but very much for it in private. And you weren't permitted to snuggle, bunny hug, kiss goodbye on the porch or anything. So you had to, you know, sneak around. But they made it rough on you. They kept the hedges cut about that high all over the campus, which was tough on ministerial students without cards. It was hard to find a place for devotionals. And I was planning to be a minister, and Eleanor came to Baylor, and we met and fell madly in love with each other. And those were really good years. I don't suppose we will look back on it with too much regret. Didn't argue, we didn't fuss. She says that we both agreed with me, which is probably true. Eleanor, come and join me a minute, please. I want you to get to see my wife. Anyhow, this is my sweetheart. This is Eleanor. Happy birthday. Hey, you should sit down here. We do this at home a lot. We just come in and dress up and sit down.
Then I go in the kitchen and scrub the floor with my heel.
I wanted Eleanor to look like a really sexy Puritan. You know? High necks, no makeup, and all that kind of stuff. No nail polish. I was fiercely opposed to nail polish. We would go out to a dinner I was to speak for one evening, and I came in, and Eleanor was sitting on the sofa with this bright red taffeta cocktail dress on the door with a scoop neck to it and sequins all over it, and was sitting on the sofa painting her nails with 12-foot strokes. I mean, just... And I stood there in disbelief. And I said, "What are you doing?" She looked up at me and said, "I am polishing my nails." And went right on. And since that day, I've absolutely fallen in love with that woman all over again. I didn't really know what happiness could be like until she started giving me occasional thunder. I didn't know what it could really be like to have to deal with problems instead of issue orders. And it got over into raising our children. I suddenly began to discover that sometimes I needed to go in and kneel down beside the bed and hug Perry or Toby and say to them, "I really was wrong when I did such and such today. Could you forgive me?" I also discovered that it was important to affirm my children for their strengths. Not just because they could run fast, throw a ball far, jump high, or do well in school, but just for being neat people. And I had to learn to occasionally catch them at an off-guarded moment and just hug them real good and say, "Man, I love you." No success in the world can compensate for failure at home. And I really believe that.
I would say that my sons have been more fun as teenagers than they've ever been in their lives. We have loved them and enjoyed them. And another thing that I feel is that far too many children do not get enough freedom when they're with their families to learn how to use it when they're away from their families. So I've tried very hard to give the boys virtual freedom to decide and do and choose things for themselves since I felt they were old enough to handle some of it and while I was still there to take the licks in case they boo-booed. But I'll turn loose of an 18-year-old son comfortable about whatever he decides to do, and I think I can be very grateful for that.